Good afternoon. My name is Derek Smith. I'm a career strategist with the Academic Advising and Career Center. So welcome to Works for Strategies. For those who are coming in, I just want to let you know that this session is being recorded. So hopefully you're comfortable with that. You do not worry about putting on your mic and your video. That's fine. We will do a little bit of interactive just a little bit later on, but just want to let everybody know that we are recording this session. So again, good afternoon. Once again, my name is Derek Smith. I am a career strategist with the Academic Advising and Career Center. So before I jump into our presentation today, a couple people I'd like to introduce you to as well. In the back end, I have two very important people that are helping out. Sarah is running our tech, so she's helping out there. So you will see technical support Sarah. And another very important person I do want to go ahead and introduce you to is Monique. She's my colleague from the ANCC as well. And she's going to be monitoring the chat to everybody. And she's also going to be helping out with some of the breakout rooms. Now, in the chat, if you go and open that up, hopefully it's still there. If not, please do let us know because we'll upload it again later. Is you were sent 3 separate handouts by email. You will need these handouts and we'll upload them again when we get to that section. But there's 3 emails. It should be at the top of the chat. There's a T analysis, a sample job, and a networking circle. So go ahead and download those, open those up. You will need them for later on today, or those should have been emailed to you. So let's take a look a little bit first before we jump into Works for Strategies, a little bit about who the ANCC is and the work that we actually do. So for those who are unfamiliar with Academic Advising and Career Center, is we do help you with your career. So everything I'm going to be covering today in our session, we actually do one-to-one appointments. So we do one-to-one appointments. Now, one-to-one appointments are interesting. For right now, we're doing everything virtual, obviously, because we're not on campus. So those will be either through Teams, through Zoom, or through phone calls. So you have a choice of which 3 types of connection you would like. However, campus is opening back up. So on the 28th, we are going to also start to offer some in-person sessions. In the beginning of February, and then you can either book in person or still do the virtuals. The choices will be there. And we're still do a hybrid model for the next little bit. So what do we help you with? Well, probably our biggest service that we provide is resume critiquing. Actually, when I talk a little bit about resumes today, you will definitely be wanting to come and get some help for that. So we both do resume critiquing, which we do look at your resumes, but we also do job ad critiquing. So what does that mean? Is if there's a position you want to apply to, you're welcome to go ahead and send that to us and we will review that for you. So do definitely take a look at getting your resume done. You can send us a job posting and we can review that for you. I would say about 9 out of 10 students, so 90% of students that I work with do need a complete resume revision. So something you want to think about. Now, job search help. That's what this workshop is about today, is we do provide one-to-one appointments with job search help. Now, just to let you know, and I do want to give you a bit of an apology, this session is the jam-packed version of job search. I'm going to cover a lot of materials with you today, so just be aware that I'm going to cover a lot very quickly, but we do offer one-to-one assistance with everything we'll talk about today in job search. Now, all this, of course, leads to an interview, and we do 2 types of interview help. We do interview tips. So if you want to learn how to do an interview, one very popular area right now we're helping out with is how to do virtual interviewing, because, you know, welcome to a webcam, how to do assessment testing online. So we give you tips, plus we also do mock interview practice. So what that means is you can do an actual practice interview with us. You can go ahead and send us a job posting and we will interview you. We will customize the interview as best as we can to that particular posting. And then we'll give you feedback. And that's important because for most job interviews, the biggest feedback you typically get is a phone call or no phone call for the job. We will give you feedback for that. Career exploration. Let's say you don't know what kind of job you want to get into, or you don't know what your degree is going to lead you to, or you're not quite sure what your fit is. You can book an appointment with one of our career counselors for a career counseling appointment in which they can go ahead and go through with you one-to-one, figuring out your fit and your direction. Now, LinkedIn. I will talk about LinkedIn later on in the session today, but we do LinkedIn help both in teaching you how to do LinkedIn and live critiquing LinkedIn profiles. One thing I've kind of enjoyed about doing this online with teams, with our appointments, is I can do a live critique with your profile. Now, why is LinkedIn important? I will talk about this more later, but for my current statistics, 99% of Fortune 500 companies use LinkedIn to find candidates. And more than 9 out of 10, so more than 90% of employers are looking up candidates online, both to recruit them and to also look them up after they've interviewed them or they received their resume. One recruiter recently told me, if you do not have a LinkedIn account, you simply do not exist. So if you don't have LinkedIn, you don't know what it is, you definitely need a LinkedIn account. And then any kind of strategic questions you might have about careers. And finally, and what we're really busy with right now is grad school assistance. So if you think about grad school, we do offer appointments for that as well. There's our phone number, there's our email address. We offer these appointments to you. Everything I'm talking to you about today will be done in those one-to-one appointments. So why don't we go ahead and jump in and talk a little bit about job search. So what are our learning outcomes for today? As a result of today's workshop, we're looking at how to set goals for our job search. Understand the hiring challenge from the perspective of the employer. So one thing I've kind of looked at in designing this workshop is not only from your side, but from the side of the employer and what it's like for them to do job search. Now, in one of my previous careers, I have done contract recruitment before. So a lot of the tips and advice I'll be giving you is from the side of someone who used to have to go through a few hundred resumes to choose someone for interviewing. So we're going to look at from the side of the employer. We're looking at internet resources and how to use them properly and how to stay motivated in your job search. Are these USG students as well? Yes, actually St. George has their own career center. So what we're offering, they also offer. So contact the St. George Career Center for help with that. Okay, so our time together is going to be divided kind of into two sections. Our first section is all about preparation when it comes to your job search. So we're going to look at getting a focus, we're looking at how to do research, and then we're doing something called the T analysis. I'll explain that to you in a few moments what that is. Then we're going to actually get down to how to do the job search side. The internet, networking, informational interviews, how to use a recruiter and social media. So we're going to cover basically a wide spectrum. And I did say at the beginning, this is a very dense workshop. So I do apologize for the amount of information you're going to get, but that's why we offer one-to-ones. We can go into more detail when you meet with us. So before I kind of get into the actual job search itself, I do need to talk about the labor market. And I briefly want to talk about how the labor market used to be and how it is today. So what are some of the biggest differences we're noticing about the labor market? Well, in the past, the labor market had a very straight line. What that meant was you knew what kind of job you're going to get into. The kind of job you graduated with is, whatever your degree said, that's the job you went into, and that's what you did. You could pretty easily plan, here I am, and here I'm going when it came to your job search in the past. Today, though, the job market is very, very different. Whenever you get a chance to speak to alumni, and I'll speak more about that in a moment, or anybody who's actually been out there, they will tell you that your career path is more circular or winding. It's not necessarily straight anymore. It's going to take a lot of turns, a lot of hoops, and a lot of different directions. Now, when it comes to loyalty or how long a person stays at a job, there's also been a huge change as well. So in the past, a person could stay for decades, absolutely decades, when it came to working at a place. My mother was a teacher for 40 years at the exact same university, 40 years. And you ever talk to your grandparents, your aunts and uncles, staying for decades was the normal, and some people still do. But in today's labor market, 3 to 5 years average, a person switches careers. So employers are understanding there's a lot of rotation that happens when it comes to jobs. When it comes to changes as well, when it comes to your career, back in the day, it was rare. What you graduated with is what you retired with. That's typically how it worked. However, in today's labor market, change is common. Individuals are changing all the time when it comes to not only their job titles, but the fields that they're into. And finally, when it comes to the labor market, it used to be very predictable and stable. But in today's labor market, it changes. There's always new learning. Now, depending on the kind of person you are, you might say, oh, I like the past or I like the present. They both have their advantages and disadvantages. You might look at the past and say, well, that was so easy back then. I just graduate, get into the same job and stay there. However, the problem might be, what if you were in a career you didn't like, or a career that didn't quite fit with you? A lot of people would go into the quote unquote family business. And what if that's not what you wanted to do? In the past, based upon your gender and ethnicity, you could be stuck in certain careers and that was it. So today, it's very different. There's a lot more flexibility, a lot more change, a lot more options, but it also means on your end, as a job seeker, there's a lot more mobility and a lot more thought process into your career. Which does take me to the biggest, as we would say, elephant in the room when it comes to the labor market. And that is simply job searching in a COVID-19 world. Can we believe we're on year 2 of this? I mean, seriously, year 2 of going through this. And what we have to understand is that the labor market has seriously changed in the past couple of years. It really has. Now, when we were doing this, career counseling at the beginning of the pandemic, I tell you, May and June of 2020, they were saying it was the worst labor market since the Great Depression, or since the market crash of 2008, 2009. So the labor market did change. Now, the numbers have gone way up. And the good news is people are able to find jobs. But we have to understand that industries have been hit hard. And we know the industries that have been hit hard. I mean, who would like to go for dinner right now? You can't, right? I mean, we've seen that. But that's for now. And hopefully we will get on top of this. But we know that things have changed. But you can be successful. And I hear from a lot of students that they're worried they're not going to find work, that they're worried that things are out there. I will tell you right now, this year alone, not 2022, I was talking since the academic year since September, I have had a total of 4 students contact me that I've been working with who have found employment. And those are the ones that just contacted me. These are students I either did the resume for or did an interview with to practice, and I had 4 of them email me saying, I found a job. So these are students that just are telling me many more students are finding positions. In fact, if you talk to our employment engagement coordinator, he has been so busy with employment events, which we'll take a look at later on this afternoon, with employers reaching out to us, running events, running fairs, wanting to connect with students. The jobs are there. However, to be successful, you will need to be determined. In today's labor market, even before COVID, job searching wasn't just I think I'll find a job and see what happens. It does require work today. Competition is higher, not only in the sense of the amount of people applying for jobs, but the quality of the people applying for jobs. So it requires work on your end. It's going to require you to be creative and flexible. One thing we try to help students understand is don't get fixated on job titles, or try not to get fixated on certain companies. There's many different organizations out there, many different ways you can use your background and your education to find work. So be creative, be flexible, show some imagination. And this is where today's session leads into, you need a solid job search process. And you'll find out why that is going to be in a few moments. You absolutely do need a solid job search process. Success can be found in a COVID-19 world. We're getting students who are finding positions, but it does require a little bit of work and effort. So let's get into what it takes. Now, we're going to do a poll here because I want to talk about job search methods. We're going to do 2 different polls. So the first poll, we're going to look at what is your favorite form of job search. So let's say you had to find a job tomorrow. What's your favorite form of job search? So Sarah, can you pop up for us poll 1, please? So poll 1, you have these different options there. What's your favorite job search method? Can you go ahead and vote, please? If you had to find a job, what is the top method you would pick out of all the methods here in front of you? Let's take a few moments to see what's going on. Top method. We're seeing a running ahead. We're seeing one dominating here. It's like watching a horse race. All right, but we're seeing a pretty clear winner for the most part. Jobs on the internet. For the most part, this is people's favorite. So excellent. Let us now go to poll number 2. So Sarah, can you load up poll 2 for us, please? Poll 2 is going to be your least favorite. So if you had a job that you want, the job search method you would avoid, the one you say, I don't want to do this at all to find employers. Out of these here, what's your least favorite method? Go ahead and select one, please. What is the one you say, I want to avoid this the most? Yeah, we're seeing, again, a bit of a clear lead here, that word networking, social media. I know direct contact is a little different these days, but that will come back. But we're starting to see a pretty clear area here of which ones people want to avoid. So interesting, isn't it? Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. We did see a pretty clear winner, and I guess you can call it a loser for the second one. But when it comes to job search, the stats agree that when it comes to how you look for work, internet by far. Now, this is not everybody's favorite. I did see that it was quite strong for people's least favorite way of finding work. But overall speaking, internet tends to be the most popular way of finding work. Well, why is that? There's so many different reasons, right? It's easy. You can simply go online. For the past 2 years is all we had, right? But let's face it, even before COVID, I've been helping people look for a job well before COVID. It was by far the most popular. It's easy. You don't have to talk to anyone. Let's face it, you can do it in your pajamas. I've been unemployed before. I know about the pajama job searching. So it's fairly simple. And then we saw direct network contact as the least favorite way of looking for work. And there's many different reasons for that. Probably the most common ones I hear from students is it's difficult to talk to people directly. It's hard to know what to say. You don't know who to talk to. I don't know anybody. I'm not a salesperson. I don't know how to schmooze, how to work a room. So we do see that quite a bit. So this is your perspective when it comes to job search. The most predominant way of people looking for work by far, internet. But as I mentioned earlier, this workshop's not only looking at your perspective. Let's look at the recruiters, the employers. And if we look at the two triangles, there is something we're going to notice very, very different. Again, your preferred method was the internet. Again, for most people, not everyone, but most people, the internet was number one and direct contact was the bottom. But for employers, take a look at the difference. The top way employers like to connect with people, to hire them, is direct connection. And the least favorite of theirs, internet. So what does that mean? It means we have the most people looking for the most jobs in the least area employers like. So what this is giving us is something known as the bottleneck effect, in which you have a whole bunch of people trying to squeeze into a very, very, very small area. Now, why is that for employers? We looked at the sense of why people like the internet the most and direct contact the least. From an employer point of view, why do they pick this way? Well, for networking, it really comes down to two words. And these are two words that all employers, regardless of industry, field, size of company, these are two words all employers like to save. And those two words, time, money. Regardless of field, regardless of industry, regardless of size of company, time and money, all companies want to save these two things. And how does direct connections save them both? Well, one, just to apply online is extraordinarily expensive. How do you think Indeed stays in business? They charge employers for posting. Not only that, with larger companies, they have to hire just an entire department to screen resumes. That's what I used to get paid to do. I was paid to screen resumes. So companies, if they could not hire someone like myself or any other HR recruiter, they would avoid that. So it saves them time and it saves them money. For our some of our own staff here, we've hired directly just from connections out there. So employers prefer that. But we do have a problem then. If the number one method for employees or job seekers is internet, employers is direct contact, there's a bit of a disconnect there. So we are going to cover all the different methods out there today. And I'm not saying don't use the internet. What I'm saying is if you are going to use the internet, your tactics have to be very, very different. So before we look at internet searching, before we look at LinkedIn, resumes, and even the interviews, we need to take a moment to step back. Before we do any kind of job search, we have to understand what kind of job we're looking for. I get students who come to me who send me resumes, and I will look at them and say, what kind of job do you want to get with this resume? And the student will say to me, I want any job. I'll take anything, right? And I hear that quite a bit is I'll take any job. Great, you want any job? There are several fast food restaurants that are, hiring, and they will be hiring again. You can get a job there. Now, I'm not knocking these types of jobs. I know people who work in this fast food industry, and I'm not knocking it. But if you're someone who's going to be graduating, for example, you may not want to think about that. So it's not just an issue of any job. I know of high pressure sales positions that'll hire you like this. I used to work for one that I quit when I realized what it was like. You'll see a lot of companies out there that say no experience required. We'll hire you without, an interview even. And it's high pressure commission sales. You could easily do those jobs and get one literally tomorrow. So it's not just about a job. Before you start even an application process, we recommend to take a step back and ask some very important questions. And the first one is, who are you? What are your strengths, personality, and what kind of work environment do you like? We're talking about summer work. And for most students, if you're trying to get your first or entry-level position, service, retail, manual labor, those are the big three. I know COVID's hit some of those areas, but they are coming back. And before you even go to apply to positions, ask yourself a question: is what kind of job do I want to get into? What's a good fit for me? If you are a person who likes to maybe work alone and work with their hands, maybe a retail job's not the best choice for you. If you're someone who loves talking to people and loves helping people with their problems and issues, and maybe working a job by yourself as a landscaper may not be the best fit for you. Just because you're a student doesn't mean you have to take any kind of position. You can find positions that are something that just help you and enjoy doing. When I was in university, my friend helped me get a job through networking, which I'll talk about in a bit, as a car jockey working for a car rental agency. With the car jockey, I cleaned up the cars for people at the agency. I drove people around. Yeah, it was a lot of hard work, but you want to know something? I was a 21, 22-year-old. I worked there for several years, who got to drive $60,000 Cadillacs. I got to drive 4x4s in the wintertime, pickup trucks, and convertibles, which I was allowed to put the hood down, roof down on in the summertime. I'm a car guy. So yeah, it was a labor position, cleaning up nasty cars. And then I got to drive the $60,000 Cadillac for people's weddings. So I got some enjoyment out of that position. So what kind of jobs are you looking for? What kind of person are you? Take an account of yourself first. Then once you do that and kind of figure out a little bit of the kind of field you want to get into, target your search and figure out what kind of jobs match up with this. What are some positions that are a good fit for me? After you start to figure yourself out first, do your research. Figure out where are these positions found. Maybe make a list of top employers you want to be working for and target them. I remember when I graduated for my diploma in career counseling, I made a list of 20 companies I wanted to work for from doing my research and targeted all of them, and one of them led me to my first position. So when you're doing your research, there are two important questions you need to figure out. Number one is, what do I offer? What do I have? What can I give an employer, both in experience and skills and personality? But the second question we need to figure out is, what do I need? What do employers look for that I'm offering? We're talking about making a connection here. You see, one of the biggest issues I find with students, especially when they send me their resume and the job posting, is they have no idea what kind of jobs they're actually applying to. They don't know what the positions are. They just simply find a position, read it briefly, and hit the apply button. And jobs are far more complicated than that. I'll talk more about that in more detail in a few minutes. But what you don't want to be doing is simply just doing mass emails of resumes. I've had students come to me before and say, I've sent out 200 resumes without a single phone call. That's not an exaggeration. It's happened a few times. And one of the big reasons is they don't understand the position they're applying to, and they're sending out what's called a generalistic resume, which won't get a phone call because the way employers screen resumes. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit when I get to the internet side. But the first step after understanding yourself, the next step is understanding the employer and what they're looking for. And that takes us to what's called a T analysis. What a T analysis does is it helps you break down what employers are really looking for when it comes to their candidates. And typically speaking, there's three types of areas they're looking for. There's their technical skills of the position, there's the soft skills or the personality skills of the position, and then the educational experience requirements. So when you're looking at job postings, not only just hit the apply button, figure out what are the questions that the employer is going to be asking when it comes to the skills. What are the jobs? What is the company I'm applying to? What are they all about? So here's an example. This is an actual job. This is a posting from CLNX. If you're not familiar with CLNX, obviously you were to register for this today. There's a job board on there. There are positions you can be applying to, and this is a sample position. And whenever a student comes to me with a job posting, the first thing I do is look at the posting and I start highlighting the key components of the posting. Did you notice what I did there? Here's the posting with a bunch of stuff on it. And what I like to do is find out what is this job actually about and who are they looking for. when I used to meet with students physically and they would give me a physical job posting, I would literally take my highlighter and start marking up the posting with all the important things of what the job was about. When I'm meeting with students now online, I'll still do the same thing in Teams and just start highlighting the different components, because we need to understand the employer. Often I'll spend more time on the job posting than I do on the resume, because I really want to get into the brain of the recruiter. As I said, I used to do recruitment, so I want to get that brain on and do what I call putting my recruiter glasses on and see the posting for what it really is. So whenever you get any job posting in front of you, you need to answer two questions. Question number one, what is this job actually about? You know, what are you doing in day to day? Explain it in plain language. That's what I like to do with students I meet with. Explain it in plain language. And then number two, who should get hired for this position? What kind of person is a great fit for this job? And by doing this method of a T analysis, we're able to do that, because step one is understand the job. And then step two is to understand what you have that matches to the job. So if you will notice here, we've broken this down into three areas: technical skills, soft skills, and educational requirements. On one side, we have the requirements of the position, which were those highlighted parts in the job posting. On the other side is what's being brought to the table from the candidate, in this case, you. What do you have that matches the posting? So by doing this, this helps you in two ways. Number one, helps you to know even if you want to apply to this position. I've had so many students who brought me positions that once I break it down for them, they literally said to me, oh, I'm not sure if I actually want to do this job. It's not what I thought it was. Or I've had positive results where students like, I'm not sure if I'm a good fit for this position. And once I read the position over with them and look at their resume and do this kind of method with them, it's like, no, you're a fantastic fit. Let's apply to this job. But break it down first. On one side, what are they asking for? On the other side, what do I have that matches? So here is what we're going to do. We have an activity here. You've all been given a T analysis. You've all been given a set of job postings. Sarah, can you plop those back into the chat for everybody, just in case for those who came in late, the T analysis and the job posting? Can you pop those in there for me, please? So what we're going to do is we're going to break you into breakout rooms of 4 to 5 people each. And you have 2 job postings, okay? You have a program assistant and a member services assistant posting. So here's what you're gonna do. In your breakout rooms, I want you to do the T analysis for the position. Understand, what is this job about? Now, obviously, you're not gonna talk about your side of it because you don't have, you know, a resume to work on right now. But what I want you to focus on is breaking down the position and answering 2 very important questions. Number one, what is this job about? Explain it in real language. So in your breakout room, talk about the job. What is this job about? You know, what are you actually doing in this job? And number 2, who would be hired for it? So why don't you put some recruiter glasses on for a moment? I'll temporarily upgrade everybody in this workshop to a recruiter. And if you are hiring someone for this, who would you look for? Okay. So if you haven't done so already, the T analysis is in the chat. The job postings are in the chat. You've also been emailed these so you can download those quickly and open them up. And you can be put into breakout rooms. Now, in your breakout room, pick someone who could be a speaker, because I'm going to ask for some volunteers to talk about both positions. Okay? So hopefully the instructions are clear. You're going to pick a job. You're going to break it down. What is this job and who would get hired for it? And then we'll come back. Let's give you 5 or 6 minutes, all right? All right, Sarah, can you pop everybody into their breakout rooms, please? Welcome back, everyone. So we have some job search jobs to take a look at. So let's go ahead and take a look at them in more detail. So the first job we had a look at here was the program assistant at Rotman. So does anybody want to take a chance and volunteer and talk to me about this position? You can go ahead and unmute. And you don't have to turn your camera, that's fine, but you go ahead and mute. And does anybody want to take a chance and talk to us about what is this job actually about as a program assistant? Would anybody like to volunteer? Okay, we have Jessica. Go ahead and unmute, Jessica. Thank you for volunteering.
Hi. I didn't read all of the requirements, but from what I've read so far, it's about someone who can do follow-up emails, just prepping for meetings. Uh,
Yeah, no, that sounds pretty good. Yep.
oh, I think also if it's mostly administrative
Mhm.
tasks.
That's correct. Great. If you were to hire someone, Jessica, for this, what kind of person would you look for?
Someone who's able to multitask.
Hmm.
Someone who's also very tech savvy in terms of social media, and using Microsoft software such as email, Word, Excel.
Oh, that's great. That's perfect. Thank you. That's enough. Thank you. You can put your hand down. That's great. Yes. So here's an interesting one. When it comes to looking at a posting, a couple of tips I'll give to you. One is about the actual job title. So here's the thing you have to understand about job titles. Job titles are arbitrary. So what that basically means is that companies call a job whatever they want. And when you see something like a program assistant, what does that actually mean? Right? It's a job title. It's very vague. So don't trust job titles. They're guidelines, not rules. And the second thing to be careful of is strictly hopping down to the qualifications area. Because the problem, if you just read the qualifications area, what does it tell you? Right? They want a university college degree or equivalent work experience, some computer work, maybe you know how to do some social media stuff. So if you were just to read these qualifications, do you have any idea what this job is about? No, you don't. But the problem is that's unfortunately what most students do. They read the job title, go to the qualifications, see they want communication skills and a bachelor's degree, and hit the apply button, and not knowing what they're actually applying to. By actually reading the position over, you get an idea of what the job is, and Jessica nailed it. This is an administrative position. You're dealing with some clients, but you're doing a lot of back-end work. So this gives you an idea of what the job's about. So excellent. Let's take a look at the next one. Membership Services Assistant. Does anybody want to take a chance at talking about this one for a moment? Or anybody have a chance to take a look at this? And just so you know, both these jobs were on CLNX. These are real positions. Well, they were when I pulled them. So when we take a look at this again, Membership Services Assistant, what does that mean, right? It kind of gives you an idea of membership, okay, but is that like the library or, you know, something else? We don't know. So again, if we simply hop down to the job requirements, high school, okay, you know, some very generic things that are being mentioned here. So it's when we actually read the post and we find out that this is a customer service front end job working in a gym on campus, okay? So this gives you an idea that this is a front end position. You're talking to people all day long, working with people all day long, doing payments, scheduling, all that kind of stuff, helping them with customer inquiries, complaints, anything. So this requires someone who loves to talk to people. When I spoke at the beginning of understanding what the job was, for some of you, this might be a fantastic job. And for some of you, you're like, oh, please no, I'm not a people person. But you may not know that without reading the job. So this gives you an idea of the type of ways to read the position and use a T-analysis to your advantage. Understand what the job is and understand what you have that matches the position. Let's hop back into our workshop. So let's get to the job search methods themselves, because this is kind of how we started off, looking at the different job search. And as I spoke about before, with internet, it's the least popular method with employers, but the most popular method with job seekers. But when you get down to the actual math, internet is actually the least successful method when it comes to finding jobs. And you might think to yourself, what? Why is it so unsuccessful? Well, again, it comes down to that math I was talking about earlier. That because it's the most common way of looking for a job, because most of you like this is your top way of looking for a position, so does everybody else, which means you have the most people trying to fit into the smallest area. If you see a job on Indeed, and let's say it's a more common position, it's not maybe a dozen people you're competing against, it could be several hundred people you're competing against. So because of that, you have to understand the way recruiters screen applicants. So if you're applying to some online position, and if any of you have ever uploaded your resume to a website, you have to understand what happens next, because if you ever upload your resume to a website, you're going through what's called an ATS, it stands for applicant tracking system. And that upload is not being read by a person, unfortunately. It's being read by a computer system. This computer system uses keyword algorithms to screen out candidates. And depending upon how many so depending how it's set up, it could delete anywhere from 70 to 80% of people. Let me repeat that. 7 to 8 out of 10 people will get deleted going through an ATS computer screening system when you upload to a website. Now you might think, holy cow, that's huge. Well, if a job gets 500 people applying to it, and that's actually not that many, believe it or not, for some positions, 80% deleted still leaves 100 people to be read by hand. And that's what I used to do. I used to be a screener. And then when you got to someone like me, believe it or not, I was trained to read resumes in under 5 seconds, believe it or not, to reject you or accept you for further down the recruitment line. And you might think, holy cow, 5 seconds. Yeah, when I used to meet with students physically, they'd give me their resume. I would literally go, okay, let me tell you how you fit. And they're like, holy cow, how'd you do that? I was trained to do that. If I have 120 resumes on my desk and I need to get it down to, let's say, 15 for further screening, I'm not spending 1 to 2 minutes per resume. That's not a good use of my time. I'm spending 5 to 10 seconds per resume to cut off most of them to get it down to the ones we really want to take a look at. So a computer does that first, and then someone like what I used to do would do that next. So it's not that internet is bad. It's just understand on a pure statistical level is the least effective because of the amount of competition you'll be facing. So if you choose to use the internet, and again, do use it. I've gotten jobs through the internet. You need to really make sure that you use the profile tools that they have for you, that you're very thorough in how you're doing this. Do your research into the position, like I said, do your T analysis, and really spend time on that resume. For my previous past 2 full-time positions, I working here at U of T and I used to work at Ryerson University, I had to go through the internet. It was the only way I could find a job to these companies. And I got the job through the internet. I spent 2 days on my resume before I hit the apply button because I really had to make sure it was refined and looked really good because I knew my competition. When I applied to my job at Ryerson's Career Center, my boss at the time told me that there were 450 other applicants, and I was one of the few that made it through to an interview. I was one of 5 who made it to an interview. So 450 to 5, I mean, just look at those numbers. So use the internet, which is fine. You need a killer resume, and you also need to pack your patience and be persistent. But what I want to talk to you about now is the most effective way of finding a job. If networking was if internet's the least effective way of finding a job, let's talk about networking. And for many of you, this was your least favorite way of finding a position. And I understand that, but let's understand the numbers. So we run a lot of alumni events here at the ANCC, and I run a lot of them myself. I just ran one last week for a consulting group. We had 3 alumni come in and present. And then last year, I also did 3 different alumni events in which I had a total of 12 different alumni come in. And out of those 15 alumni, all 15 said they found a job through a networking connection. Not one of them found a job through a cold application online. And when you do talk to employers and people who are alumni and working in the field, most of them find their job through connections. It is by far the most successful way of finding work. Doing connections, statistics show 1 out of 6 people will find a position versus 2 out of 100 through standard internet and email. So by far, networking is the most successful. There's less competition and you're more than a piece of paper. One of the reasons that resumes is our most popular appointment that we offer is because they're so difficult to write. They are. And when you network, you're more than just simply a piece of paper. But we need to understand what networking is, because I understand it is a buzzword. And I understand that many people are intimidated by this word. So let's understand what networking is. It's the process of developing connections and building relationships. It's about sharing information and ideas, and it's the genuine interest and curiosity about the work that others do. Networking in our context is not about sales. It is not about manipulation. It is not about being ingenuine. It's about creating connections. And when you create connections with individuals, you're more than a piece of paper. You're more than just a pile of individuals who are applying for the same job. You're someone of value that the employer can get to know. But we do understand that when it comes to networking, there are some mental blocks. There are some barriers that an individual has to come over. The first one is for most students is they might say, I don't know anybody. I'm a student. How do I know someone? I'm a first-year student. I haven't made any connections yet. You know more people than you think. All right. You might need to make a list and make some connections. Get referrals from people. And you can also interview others. We'll talk about informational interviews. I'll talk about in a second. And I'm going to show you how we at the ACC are making networking so easy for you during this summer job blitz and the other events that we're running. Next, I hear from students is I can't sell myself. Remember, this is not about sales. Networking is about conversation and building relationships. It's about being open with professionals and making those connections. Employers need people. As I said, our employment officer has been so busy because employers need people. So if you reach out to them, a lot of them want to talk to you. But let's talk about building your ABCs. Many individuals, as I already stated, say, I don't know anybody. I don't know individuals. So one thing I want to talk to you about is building what's called your ABC network. Anybody you know, bridging connections, which means someone who knows someone, and contacts to target. So you have been given a handout known as your networking circle. So let me go ahead and share that with you for a second. All you were given this handout called the networking circle. So let me pop open to that. So this is your networking circle. And the way your networking circle works is you're trying to figure out people is start building the people you know. One time I did this exercise with someone who said, Derek, I know 5 people and I can't stand 3 of them. Yeah, they're really positive. But by the time we'd finished working on this together, they had about 50 names on here. And what you want to do is start thinking about the people who are closest to you, people on the outer part of the circle who are connections to you, and the outer part more of acquaintances. Most individuals who say, I don't know anyone, have never actually sat down and figured out who they actually know. So this is something for you for homework. Take it with you and start filling out names. My favorite form of networking is doing something called an informational interview. And that is where you actually get to interview someone for information. Now, we know what an interview is. It's probably one of the most stressful parts of job search. But an informational interview is not applying for a job. It's where you interview someone to know more about what they do. It's where you find out the ins and outs about a career. I get students asking me, what's this job all about? How do I get into this field? And although we provide the most up-to-date, relevant information we can find, people who know that the best are those who do it for a living. Informational interviewing is connecting with individuals who do this and talking to them and finding out more about how to get in the field, what they're looking for. And it's, again, it's not that sales thing. It's not asking for a job. It's, can you help me out? And you'd be amazed how many people want to help you out. So if you ever set up a meeting with someone to talk to them, and trust me, informational meetings are fantastic. I know people who've gotten jobs through this. What led me to go to career strategy and consulting was actually through an informational interview where I interviewed a career consultant and they gave me information. So if you're going to arrange a meeting, treat this professionally. Set up a time and place. Please be on time. There's no such thing as UTSC time when it comes to meeting with professionals. Research their company. Research them. Figure out what you're going to talk about. Create some questions. During the interview, be friendly. Be open. Obviously, you'd be online right now, but eventually it's going to come back being in person. Respect their time and send a thank you letter. One of my favorite stories of informational interviews, I had a second-year stats student come to me who said, Derek, I'm a statistics student. I don't know what kind of job I want, but I don't want a math job. What can I do as a stats student? So as we started researching other positions, I looked at them and said, have you ever thought about being a business analyst before? And they're like, what's a business analyst? I don't know what that is. So we went online and looked at some business analyst jobs. And she was like, oh, wow, it seems like really cool. And I can use my stats degree for that. How do I find out more? And I said, why not talk to a business analyst and find out more about this? So what we did is went on LinkedIn and found business analysts who had a stats background. She picked someone, contacted them, had a, this is before COVID, so they had a coffee chat, a real coffee chat. And the person said, yeah, come meet with me, we'll talk. And they talked all about how they can use a stats background to get into business analyzation. And the last time I checked with that student, that's where their direction was going. They're going to finish their bachelor's in the stats, but they're gearing themselves up to jump into that area. One of my favorite ways of networking, which means we can help you out. We do so many events here at the ANCC. We do a lot of events. And so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to do a new share with you. and show you our events calendar. Obviously, to find this event, you went onto our events calendar, but just take a look at this. All you're seeing here are events we are running. This is just this week. For those of you who say, I don't know anyone, I can't connect with anybody, I don't know what's out there, we've done the hard work for you. All you have to do is register and show up. We run so many events. We run informational sessions. We run chats with professionals. We have professionals come out and talk about their careers. We do networking events. We do recruitment events. It's all here for you. Check it out. Really, this whole I can't find anybody, that barrier's been taken care of. Look at all the work that's been done. You just need to register and apply and show up. Because not only do we run networking events, we also do on-campus recruitment as well. Now, we did more on-campus recruitment before COVID, but we actually have employers that are like, I'm hiring, let me meet with your students. So we run several events throughout the year. Please start connecting and joining. And again, we've done the hard work for you. You just need to register and show up. Recruiters. So recruiters are third-party individuals who are often hired out by companies to find people. And sometimes they are looking for graduate students and sometimes looking to fill high volume roles like customer service. So if you want to work with a recruiter, they are someone who gets paid, typically by the employer, so hopefully they don't charge you. And they try to connect you with employers. So sometimes we've had recruiters come out. Other times you'll see mass hiring of recruiters. So that's another method you can look at are recruiters. So how to work effectively with them? Make sure you have a great resume, know the kind of jobs you want. Just don't go to a recruiter and say, hey, find me a job. Know what you want to do. Again, you've done the pre-research to find out this beforehand and have a bit of a focus for them to work with you. They have to be able to sell you to your employer who's hired them out to find you. And the final area I want to talk about is social media. So we've really come to understand this in the past 2 years, but even before COVID, more than 90% of employers were looking you up online to find people. You need to have a positive online presence. All the social media you might have, your Instagram, whatever Twitter accounts you might use, or you're on TikTok, whatever, please understand employers can see that. So I'm hoping the things that you're posting are things you want them to see. It's funny, when you go to an interview, I hope you spend time figuring out what you're going to wear to impress them, but please understand that most employers will look up your TikTok before they meet with you. They'll do an online Google search. So I hope you know what they're finding. If you've never done an online search about yourself, I recommend you take a look because that's what employers are doing too. So the best way to create a positive online presence for yourself is to do LinkedIn. We help you with LinkedIn. Again, we do reviews. There's a job board on there. Over 90% of employers are using it. Over 99% of Fortune 500 companies are using it. For my LinkedIn profile, let me just tell you, from it sitting there, my LinkedIn profile, since September, okay, of 2021, with my LinkedIn profile just sitting there, I've been headhunted 4 times already. What does headhunting mean? It means a recruiter contacts you and says, hey, I found your profile. I think I have a job you're a good fit for. Obviously, I didn't pick anything, but 4 times through my profile just sitting there, I've had an employer reach out to me. So have that active online presence. It is something we can help you with. Definitely, even when COVID starts being over or whatever, we get back to being in person, it is here to stay. It is one of the number one methods people are using. I was doing a panel with a recruiter last semester, and they said whenever they receive a resume, the first thing they do is check out a LinkedIn. And many recruiters are doing that. So you do want to be up to date on having that type of profile. So to summarize, organize your job search. As I mentioned from the beginning, job search is just not about sending out resumes and hoping for the best. You need to make a plan and take some action. If you're applying to a lot of jobs, keep a log because you're going to forget who's you're applying to. And here's my advice, don't just save the job link. Links go dead. I've had many students who apply to jobs and the employer contacts them for an interview and they don't know what that job is anymore. Save the position, like copy it and drop it into a Word doc or something. That way you can go back and take a look at it because I've had so many students say, I don't remember what the job was about. The link is dead. What do I do? So don't be that student. Keep a record of everything. Organize your time, okay? As I said, this is going to take determination. It's going to take a lot of work. We've helped you by creating a lot of events, but you can do a lot on your own as well. Point being is you can find a job. as I've mentioned before, I've had students saying to me that they found positions, but it's something they worked for. It's something that can be done, but it's something that you need to do. So thanks for the time. We're at time right now. Like I said at the beginning, this was a lot of information to drop in the past hour. It's more of a all-encompassing workshop, but for any further questions you might have, please book the appointment. Our phone number's there. You have our email address. You can connect with us. We'll meet with you one-to-one and talk about whatever you need to talk about when it comes to your job search. We have a couple minutes. Does anybody have any quick questions before we log off? None? Okay. Well, I don't have anything else. Oh, we do have a hand. Michelle's got a hand up. Yeah, we got about a minute. Go ahead, Michelle.
Hi, I have a question. So, once we go onto the AACC website, will it allow us to say, like, maybe if we wanted you in particular to have a look at our resume?
Yeah, so what you do is you have to contact our office directly,
Okay.
and that can be done via phone or email. Unfortunately, we don't have the system yet where you can book online for the strategists like myself. Although we do have peers. We have employment peers, which are fellow students we've hired on, who you can book online. So you can book a peer online, just someone like myself or Monique, who also does resumes. You have to either email or phone us.
Okay, thank you.
All right, no worries. Any other questions? Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, then Sarah, I believe we can end our time together.